All right, what's happening, everybody? Friends and family over out in YouTube land. This is Way here from the Six Figure Academy, having another broadcast episode this week of the Money Lab. So, welcome. We always, like we do every single week, we start off. That's a big mug.
Mhm.
we start
Aw.
off. We always start off the show getting on YouTube first, so that we could give YouTube time to propagate this show all over the interwebs. And so that way you can get a first glimpse and glance at our guest today with her fedora because I actually requested it. So say hi to the masses, April.
Hi to the masses, April.
Okay.
Just kidding. What's up,
Okay.
everybody?
Right now, we want to make sure you educate everybody on how to say your last name as well, because your name is all over the description and everything. How do we make sure we pronounce your last name correct?
My last name is Schlueter.
Schlueter.
So, yay.
Hey, can you make it sex like Schlueter?
No. You know what's really funny? My in-laws and my brother-in-law, they say Schlueter. So
Schlueter.
we're the only actual Schluters in the family,
Schlueter.
which
Schlueter.
I think is the appropriate way in the German saying, but
But doesn't Schlueter sounds like more German?
yeah, but I'm not good at accents. So ask anybody in my improv class. Like I can't do it.
Oh, cool. You're an improv. Yeah, today on the show we have Apryl Schlueter.
Da. That's all
Da?
I know. That's
Okay,
all I
cool.
know.
So it is now top of the hour. We're gonna have to fire up the audio side of it. So shh, quiet on the set, okay? So we can get this party started. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, welcome to the Money Lab Live Podcast, episode number 52, creating money your own way. All right, welcome back to another live broadcast of the Money Lab Podcast from the Six Figure Academy. I am your host, Wei Hong from the Six Figure Academy. And this is the podcast where we give you tips, strategies, and interviews with other entrepreneurs on how to create that ultimate six-figure entrepreneurial lifestyle, free of bad money stories, money anxiety, stress, and worry, so that you can monetize your dreams and execute your genius. Now, if you haven't already downloaded our free ebook From Money Anxiety to Six-Figure Mastery, make sure you go to go.thesixfigureacademy.com and get it there. It's the perfect complement to all the things we discuss on this show. And quite frankly, we've been told it could change your life. Now, if you are joining us live today and you are not on YouTube Live, make sure you get on Spreaker.com or download the Spreaker app on your mobile device and search for the hashtag #TheMoneyLab so that you can join us in the chat room and ask questions, interact with us and our beautiful guest today, or even request a specific topic to discuss that will help support you in your quest to the ideal six-figure lifestyle free of money anxiety. Now, while you're there, subscribe so that you don't miss an episode and can catch us every single week. For all of the ways to find us, go to the sixfigureacademy.com/radio for all the details. And if there's something that you love about what you hear on the show today or episode, even before the show is over, that you know could help someone you care about, remember, sharing is caring. So share the show to that person. Awesome. So today we have Apryl Schlueter on our show. And before I formally bring her on, I want to make sure I give her the justice of explaining a little bit about what she does. I've already been on her show and we've talked quite a few times actually, but I want to give you guys a formal introduction. Now, Apryl, how do you say I guess that's your maiden name, right?
My maiden name.
Yeah.
My maiden / middle name is Zarate, like karate. Hiya.
Oh, hiya. So Apryl Zarate Schlueter, right? Now she is the chief energy with an exclamation point energy officer of the Cheerful Mind Inc. That is a company. It's a happiness and she's a happiness and productivity coach, speaker, author. Just finished last year doing a full tour with her book, Finding Success in Balance, My Journey to the Cheerful Mind. And she's also host of the show that I've been on called Cheerful Conversations. Wait, have I been on that show?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Oh, no. I haven't been on the show. No, I've been in your group, in your private group.
And then the virtual summit we did a couple years ago, the Your Life, Your Way series.
Yeah.
That's
so
when it all started.
That's what it is. Yeah, because I've been around your field for so many times for so many different events. I wasn't sure, but okay, cool. I haven't been on your show yet. What? what's going on here?
I just started it like 2 months ago, so we'll get you on.
Okay, cool. Now, after years of working in various industries, and what I love about Apryl is that her and I kind of come from the same creed. We're both engineers, we're both tech heads. And basically, she realized her true passion for helping people streamline. And I think, from what I understand, she started burning herself out in that industry that we're both not in anymore. But then she has learned to use those strategies. She didn't walk away without any kind of value, but productivity, goal setting, planning infused with personal development methodology, stress management, all these cool things. And we're going to get to know a little bit more about her today on the show, talking about how to create your own money your own way. And I think that's a big piece. And what I love about the topic and what Apryl's going to be talking about is, we all think we're supposed to be making money a certain way. But the fact is, in order to become truly successful from a financial standpoint, you have to be willing to understand that eventually, as you learn all these different ways to make money, you're going to have to start doing things your own way. You're going to have to develop your own way of making money. So let me guess, let me see, check in with Apryl. Is that kind of what you were getting at when you helped us put that title together?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of misnomers about what society says we should be doing and us wanting to tie ourselves to that. And I did it for most of my life. And I think it wasn't until I let that go that I started making real money. So it's just funny, or at least in feeling good about the money that I was making, because it wasn't that I wasn't making money before, but just really feeling authentic about it and having fun. I'm getting paid to have fun every day. Like this is what I wanted to create my entire life. So it's totally possible.
I know, totally. Because it wasn't like you were not a successful engineer or a techie, right? Back in the day, you were actually really successful. But despite that, you actually wanted to step away and do something that was a little bit more fulfilling to you. From what I remember our conversations about. Yeah. So speaking of money, because this is the Money Lab, tell us a little bit about your money story, because now that you've understood that you have to create your own money flow, if you will, talk about, what it took. I mean, your money story from what you grew up with, what you ended up doing in your previous job or previous version of self, and then where you are now.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. So it's funny. I feel like over the last couple of years that we've been talking together, I'm getting more and more clear on what my money story is and actually starting to look at it as opportunistic rather than something that's holding me back, that's just in the last couple of months. But basically, I'm Asian. I was born in the Philippines.
What? You're Asian?
Yes.
What's your last name? Is German.
Yes. Not by marriage. I am now in the mixed breed of interracial. So
at least your kids are.
Yes. Yeah, those like half Asian kids they're just so cute. Anyways.
Yeah, they are.
So growing up in an Asian household with, and I've had conversations with this with other people who, are Asian hosts of their shows and stuff like that. It's hard to be in the situation where, we value so much this financial stability and security. And my parents grew up in the Philippines, and not that they were struggling and homeless or anything like that, but they had to work really, really hard. And, Asia is just, the Philippines at least is just a different world than it is here in the US. And my mom and I came over when I was 2 months old. They had been planning to make this transition to the US, and it was a different life. And they had to work extremely hard to make the money that they had, and they didn't want it to go to waste. So a lot of my money story had to be around, working extremely hard to make money, and then figuring out ways to make sure that we're spending the money on worthwhile things. So we didn't spend there were things that my parents splurged on. So it was funny because they were so protective of their money, but they would splurge on the things that would maybe to the outside make us look like we had accomplished success, right? I think I remember my parents got their first Mercedes when I was in high school or something. And
wow.
they worked extremely hard for it. My parents were always working. They both worked night shifts. But there were little things that they would splurge on. We always splurged on family vacations. We, at some point when big screen TVs sort of came big, like we were one of the first to get one of those in our family. There's just a lot of little things that would be little symbols to us that we were taking advantage of the hard work that we were doing. But there were also times where, I remember when I was 7 or 8, every Sunday morning, I'd get the paper and I'm sitting there clipping coupons, and we would go shopping. My dad was in the Air Force Reserve, and so we would go to the commissary where they don't charge taxes on groceries and all that stuff. And I would literally have this accordion of coupons. I'm like, ooh, what can I buy now? Ooh, I want to eat this. Oh, I get to save 30 cents. And so there was a lot of pinching pennies growing up, even though we would splurge on certain things. But that would manifest in my life as not wanting to waste anything. I would sit at the dinner table a lot and I wouldn't be able to leave until I was done eating my food because I couldn't waste my food. So that was very miserable.
It's a very Asian thing, actually.
Totally a very Asian thing.
Oh my God. My sister would take food and hide it in the couches because she wanted to. So when nobody was looking, she would put the food away. It was hilarious. I just called my sister out.
Yeah. My most vivid memory was my grandma made me ramen noodles, which, is like the healthiest thing that you could eat. And I still eat it to this day. But I remember.
You mean instant ramen?
Yeah. Oh. So I remember that she made me some and I sat at the table. It was lunchtime. And I mean, I can eat one of those packages with no problem now, but I was maybe 7 or 8 and I just wasn't hungry. I'm not really sure why, but she wouldn't let me leave the table until I was done eating. So of course it got cold. I remember I finally left the table around 4:45. So I sat at the table and didn't do anything, stared at my food until, a little bit.
And it was cold, no microwave, no warming it up.
Yeah. But I would almost to the point make myself sick just trying to eat everything on my plate because God forbid if I left something there, then I'm doing, I'm disrespecting people around the world who don't, who struggle to even have food on the table.
They do that a lot when we're growing up. It's like, kids, and my dad would have his subscription to National Geographic, and he would pull out show these pictures of kids in Ethiopia who are starving. I was like, there are people there that would love to eat what I'm like, and that's not my dad. My mom would actually use it.
Yeah. So I think that there was this story around not wanting to waste anything, but it would make me really scared to actually put money down or to invest in anything because what if it was a failure? What if I wasted the money? And so, I joke around with people in the personal development space all the time about how I didn't even know what life coaching was until 3 years ago when everybody told me that that's the job that I said that I wanted to have, even though I didn't know what that was. I never made investments in my personal growth when it didn't have anything tied to career. And, a little bit about my career, I went to a top university. I worked really hard to get in there. I was studying all the time. I would sleep, 2 to 3 hours a night doing homework till 2 a.m. My grades were everything. And so it was all focused on me getting into a good school, getting a high paying job and all of that. But, so anything that I did was very career focused and I made some great money, like even out of college. But then I started seeing this other side where I'm like, hey, I'm making a lot of money, but this isn't fun. This is, there were things that were butting up against my personal priorities. Like when I was a consultant right out of college, I missed my brother's high school graduation because they wanted to fly me to Australia to work on a project and they wouldn't let me. They told me to basically choose my family or my career. And if I didn't go to that project on that day, I was potentially going to lose it. And so I missed.
They actually said that to you?
Yeah, they said you have to choose your career or your family.
Oh my goodness. What company is that? Let's call them out.
I know.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah. And, I was crying to my mom and she's like, you know what, but you got to work. So, just do it. And I would never sacrifice that now. So that was just kind of the beginning of the end of being a IT consultant. I was like, I can't live this way. And I want to be able to be in control of my schedule. So
yeah, because
you
at
know,
that time you were already building that six-figure lifestyle. I mean, you were well on your way. You were making good money, and it's like
yeah,
this was like the success that the world and your family and everybody defined it to be. It's like, okay,
yeah,
this is what it's all about. And all of a sudden, that moment where you said, "I can't go to my brother's graduation," what?
yeah. It's crazy. And I mean,
Yeah.
so I got my very first condo in Chicago when I was 23. This is just another little tidbit of my parents really not wanting to waste. They're like, if you're going to rent an apartment, you might as well own own a place. And so I was set up very, very early to do some of these things that were not wasteful. There were other repercussions of that, but also great learning experiences. But it was one of those things where, okay, I still need to be making money because I own a home. So how am I going to continue this? I need to continue making money. And so I knew I had a good education. I could figure it out, but I took a total 180 and became a high school teacher, which
Wow.
didn't pay as much after I did IT consulting, but it was predictable. And then I had the entire summer to do whatever I wanted, although I was super tired and burnt out from the school year. I did that for a few years, and then I decided to move into higher ed, administration and finance, which is what I did for about 8 years before I started my business. So
Wow.
I've been a lifelong worker. I've always been so focused on, earning a successful living, doing all the things that you're supposed to do as an American trying to live the American dream. Get the nice
Right.
car, nice house, and get married, do all of those things. But I just felt kind of dead inside throughout it. I was happy, but it was just not the type of happy that I wanted. And so, as you were talking earlier, you mentioned that I burned out in my last job. I basically was so stressed out that it manifested in my hair, and I started losing it in humongous chunks.
Wow.
And I was crying all the time, really wasn't sure what was happening, definitely going through some sort of depression, but didn't want to get that diagnosed because I was ashamed, and ended up being encouraged to take a medical leave. And that was the first break, aside from the summers as a teacher, which I wouldn't count because I was planning weddings and, planning my wedding and all that stuff. So I was really working throughout it. But, but basically I got to a point where I was like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do anymore. And anything that I could potentially be employed for just doesn't sound exciting. And it was the first break that I took in 13 years of work, where I chose to, completely shut off, not work, not look at my email, all of those things.
And you
So,
almost had to be forced into that because they told you should take a medical leave.
yeah. And I was terrified to do that because I was like, what is everybody going to think of me? They're going to think I'm like this crazy lady, and I like have lost my mental mojo.
So there was a lot of concern, especially around money, about what the world would think, what would happen, right? It kind of sounds like what you grew up with. I mean, in terms of what your parents went through, and it's like, oh, okay, there's those little nuances that show up about they worked really hard, but they made sure they had the Mercedes, they had the flat screen TV, and all the different things,
Yeah.
But that's not actually an uncommon story. Even your journey. I mean, I can only imagine how many people who are listening right now. And by the way, if you are listening and if you're on YouTube or if you're on Spreaker, we do have a live chat. So if you have any questions or anything you even want to share, because I guarantee some of you out there are probably listening to this as, oh my God, that's where I am right now. I'm feeling like an empty shell. Yeah, I'm making money. Yeah, I've got what they say, a successful lifestyle in America. But like you said, I love what you just said. It's like, but I feel dead inside. I feel like, is this really it? Right.
Yeah.
And so, wow, what a fantastic story. So, when did the money anxiety piece, or when anxiety or stress, and where it really show up? And because throughout this process, you were probably making decent money, even as a teacher, and making great money as an IT consultant and started moving into finance. I mean, you had ways of making money within that context. But I think, for most entrepreneurs, the scariest part is when money anxiety rears its head right before you make that leap. I would suspect, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think that that's where it really reared its ugly head, because I had always had a steady paycheck. up until I decided to quit, and which I'm actually realizing. I saw a random blog post that I wrote on a different website that's still up in the interweb somewhere. But 3 years ago this week, I put my notice in to leave my job, and I went into it not having any idea of any sort of income. I was burning all of my vacation days, so I had no more paychecks coming in. There was no severance, there was no nothing. And it was terrifying. And I can't tell you, when I finally quit and I was telling people, they're like, where are you going to apply now? And I'm like, I really don't freaking know. And it was almost, I didn't even want to talk about it because I knew that was going to be the question. And I actually wanted to take a break to really think about what it is that I wanted to do. And
a break within the break?
Yeah. Yeah. It was just, I don't want to jump into anything unless it's something that I can be passionate about, because otherwise I'm just perpetuating the problem.
How did you decide that was going to be it? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there that have yet to make that leap that you've been able to do, and so many of us have been able to do, is that, I mean, me thinking back, I don't even remember when my leap was. I think it was in high school. But anyway, but making that leap is like, what is it that you do in your mind to reconcile that, to say, okay, what do I think? What do I say? How do I kind of like break away from what I've been raised to think and believe that this is the way to be. This is the way to be successful in life.
Yeah, and I think if I didn't have as much support as I did have when I was going through the transition, I don't think I would have made the leap. I think I would have just sucked it up and dealt with it. So I definitely have to give credit to my husband, who was watching me kind of deteriorate into this nothing. And he said, the way that you are right now, I mean, I don't even know who you are. You're just so miserable. It's impacting me. I'm trying to be supportive. It's impacting me. It's impacting the kids. And that was the thing that hurt more. It was like, oh my gosh, like I'm setting an example for my children. So that was one that really, really hurt. But he's like, let me take care of you. And I think that was the tough part too, because I'm not the type of person that wants to be taken care of. Like, I'm the type of person that says, I'm strong. I'm going to do it on my own. I don't need you. And I'm so good at taking care of other people that I forget to take care of myself. And so it was me accepting that, accepting it, admitting that I needed help. Right. And I think also I had a conversation with my mom, and that was probably the last, piece that made me have, like, I feel like I had the permission to actually leave, was that, my entire life when I was miserable in a job, she would always say, you got to tough it out. Like, you got to be strong. But this was the first time that she said, they don't deserve you. You should quit. And I was like, what? Oh, okay. So now I know that this is really getting serious. And so I took the leap. And I think that the first thing that I did when I quit was I went through every single one of my bills and was trying to nitpick down to the penny. Like, where can I shave? Where can I shave anything? Like, my cable bill, I guess I hadn't looked at it for like 3.5 years. And it was like $400 a month I was paying.
Oh my God, for cable?
For cable. I was so busy, I didn't have time to even look at what we were paying.
But neither of you, your husband didn't look at it either?
No, because we were just so busy. We had, at the time, my kids were, this is 3 years ago, so they were, 5 and 2 or 5 and 3. And, transitioning to becoming a parent is just crazy in itself.
Wait a minute. So this all happened like less than 5 years ago. It was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years ago.
That's amazing for the amount of stuff that you've been able to accomplish from then to now.
Yeah.
And this is a true testament of why when you make that leap and you actually make that commitment to be so, you can actually, there is no time period in terms of how you can create, how quickly or how long it takes to create success. This is really cool. I had this whole perception that this was like 10 years ago or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, it's 2015. My last day at work, I think, was March. I went to pick up my stuff like March 3rd, 2017.
And it's this week, and you're on the show this week. Perfect.
I know. So it's like anniversary of sorts. And you said this was like your 52nd episode? Does that mean you've been doing this for a year?
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, because we do it live every single week. So, I mean, I could have easily just pre-recorded stuff, but every single one of these episodes has been live. So yeah, this is the anniversary of the show. I didn't even realize. Hey, happy anniversary, Mighty Lab, SixFigure Academy. Yay. So a 3-year anniversary for you, 1st-year anniversary for the show. Get excited.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so much celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's funny is that I thought, going into it, I was like, this is going to take forever. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I think early February, I went to my first meditation. I saw a meditation specialist, never had done meditation before. And that was the story behind how I thought of the Cheerful Mind. It was like after my first meditation session.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know what this is going to be, but I'm getting the domain and like I'm starting a journey. I'm not really sure what it was. And it took me another 3 months to say, you know what? Like I'm really good at process efficiency. So I got to figure that out. But like, what if I just work with people? Because I like working with people. And that was when I was talking to people about it, they're like, oh, so you want to be a life coach? I was like, not really, but
what's that?
Okay,
I mentioned that to my parents and like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay?
No.
It doesn't exist in the Asian culture. Like life coach, what?
Yeah. But it's funny because there's so much engineering that can be done in life coaching. And that's definitely the spin that I take when I look at different things. There's a lot of brainstorming, there's a lot of this, but then it's really also understanding the mindset, which was the piece that I didn't really know. I didn't really realize how much your mindset impacts everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was almost great that I became a coach because I really cared about productivity and all of that, but I didn't realize that some of the things that I said to myself were the exact things that were hampering me from actually being productive, as productive as I wanted to be. Right. Because I mean, I've accomplished a lot in my life, and I used to hide that and be almost ashamed of it. I'm not really sure why, but there's this piece where I felt like I would always get to, pretty high up on some sort of ladder, and then I would break the top couple rungs. Like I could never get over that hump. And I would completely attribute that to the mindset, to the way that I talked negatively to myself, all of the fear and the doubt that I carried, and the shame that I had about some of the things that I feel like I deserve.
Right.
So,
and did you feel that had an impact, especially after you became an entrepreneur, when it came to like, one of the biggest challenge when you have to sit down and go out and determine what your pricing model is and what do you
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I think still today that I have doubts about, is this the right way that I want to do? But most of the time when I don't think about it too hard, it ends up being the right thing. So I don't know. I'm learning this, I'm taking improv classes right now. And that's like my biggest feedback is like, April, you got to just stop like over analyzing and overthinking it. And I'm noticing that that's showing up in my life and my business when I kind of let go of the judgment that I have on myself and I just do something, it just shows up. I mean, I had you on a call with my clients who I'm hoping that some of them are listening in today, but all of that didn't exist a year ago. I was struggling. I had private clients, but I was struggling to figure out how to grow my business. And I was mentioning in front of them on that call when you were there as a guest speaker about how we had talked last April when we met in person when I came to California to kind of promote my book and whatnot. And it was something that you had said to me in that meeting that we had over this most amazing sushi, that I think it totally kickstarted, why am I overthinking it? Why am I trying to conform to the pricing models that all coaches are using? Because it's not working for me. And so I tried something totally different and it feels like it's working. And I love my clients. I love whatever. So whatever you said to me, I don't know. That's like magic.
Money
I
magic.
wish I wrote it down.
But it's probably in there somewhere. And at some point, you're going to be able to articulate it in your own words so you can pass the buck or pass it on, so to speak. And one of the biggest things that I love what I do about what it is that I do is the fact that even if they're not able to regurgitate exactly what I said, if it made an impact, it did its job. Who cares whether or not you can repeat what I said? But at some point, you're going to be able to articulate exactly how you made it work for you, and which leads to the title of today's episode, which is you're starting to create money your own way. And I think as an entrepreneur, that's such a huge, important piece, so much so that it sets off alarm cars on the outside, and it just like fires things off. It's that earth shattering. I'll tell you.
Yeah. I can hear it's super, super faint at my end, but
oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I can really hear it on my end. But then again,
they're celebrating your anniversary.
Yeah, they're celebrating. Everybody, honk your horn, get excited. Which reminded me, I saw a video. I posted on my Facebook. I don't know if you saw it yet, but there's this Russian bear, this trained bear, sitting in the sidecar of a motorcycle, and basically people drive by, and because it's on a sidecar, it doesn't have a horn, and so it's trained to actually blow a horn.
Oh
so
my gosh.
The owner, the driver, gives him a horn, and he starts honking at cars by blowing the horn.
I think I saw it when I was scrolling through your feed today, but I was like, I need to watch this later.
Yeah, you need to watch it. It is awesome. It's like, I want to be friends with that bear. Awesome. So okay, cool. So I mean, so let's go to the topic now. So you've gone through your share, and here's the funny thing about people that talk to me. I mean, I say this every week. People come and say, "Oh, wait, you specialize in helping people with money anxiety and helping this. So you must not have any money anxiety." It's like, no, I still do. I just have processes and systems and protocols on how to manage it. Every time you take a growth in business, we've had clients that went from 6 to 7 figures, and every time you're about to hit that big jump, a big next step in financial growth, there's a little bit of anxiety that shows up. 7 to 8, doesn't matter if you're 7 figures, you go to 8 figures, same thing happens. We've seen it over and over again. So when you are going through this process, and as you continue, are you noticing that even though you're starting to create money your own way, and you've taken leaps and bounds from where you first started to where you are just 3 years ago, are you finding that as you step to new levels of financial success, that new versions or different types of anxieties or start to show up, like uncertainty or any of that?
100%. And it's funny too, because I look back at some of my clients and some of the things that they're experiencing right now, and that was me 2 years ago. And I think a lot of what I talk about is productivity, but how do you juggle everything? How do you fit it all in? Just as you say, we all teach what we need to learn, right? I still struggle with productivity. I've been telling all my clients, I haven't really done much the last couple weeks. Like I remember last week I was like, I feel like getting a manicure, so I'm going to do that. And I'm not necessarily productive, and I'm starting to beat myself up about it, but there's going to be at some point where I, have some sort of catalyst that's going to make me want to do work again. But I also know that when I work hard, I work super hard. And so trying to be loving to myself in those pockets where I'm not feeling the most productive, but knowing that it's just part of the process. Because I feel like a lot of times I wanted to kind of streamline and just have everything, just doing a little bit every day, which I could do. But there are also times when I have this burst of energy and I will, go crazy and stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning because I'm so inspired. But that's always going to have to balance out with a day of sleeping in and doing nothing. And so I'm not really sure if it's about trying to smooth it out. But every time you try to push yourself to the next level, there's always going to be this anxiety or this thing that's going to, make you question or just give you some sort of frustration. For me this year, my goals have been around being more visible and trying to do things in a more simple way, which
in a fun way too.
In a fun way.
Are wondering why she's wearing fedora. For those of you watching YouTube live, that was because of me. Because I had seen a video of her or a picture of her back in the day where she was partying it up and looked like straight out from like a Vegas party or spring break. And I was like, holy cow, who is that? And I said, you need to bring that girl to the show. And when she showed up, I said, where's that? And she says, I need a fedora. I was like, yeah. Put your fedora.
No bikini, but just a fedora.
It's too cold, right? For that right now.
Yeah. I had the heater running before the show started. I mean, it's like 50 degrees outside, but I'm naturally like cold-blooded.
That's actually cold.
Yeah. Cold. So yeah, but I think so I'm trying to push myself in this way to almost be doing less, which is kind of counterintuitive to productivity. And it's so uncomfortable. I feel like I talk to my coach every week or 7 to 10 days. And every time I'm like, I didn't really do much today, but I'm and I'm feeling guilty about it, but this is part of what I wanted to do. I'm trying not to do what I used to do, which was basically work nonstop for, straight for 8 hours. I'm trying to enjoy life a little bit more. And it might just, in that discomfort comes the growth, right? So I think that same message goes for anything as you're trying to grow financially, as you're trying to grow personally in your career. There's always going to be these pockets of discomfort. But if you can't figure out a way to embrace that and know that that's part of the process, then it's just going to be that much harder. Yeah. And so, after having, launched my program in the last 6 months, I got to a place where I'm like, this is great. Like I have steady income with multiple clients. I've got stuff to work on. I've got something consistent, but now I actually have to worry about what's next, and that's scary because it took me so long to get here. And now I have to one up that. Like, I don't know what comes next. And just even having to push yourself forward as soon as you accomplish a goal, it's like, you got to think about the next thing. And so, I definitely, I think that my money story and my money anxiety, even now after having a successfully launched program, I'm still worried about, what if this program just dies at some point and I have to start over? There's the fear and
the chatter starts coming up.
Yeah. It's like, this just, it happened so easily, I'm air quoting for those of you that are listening in. I kind of I created a program that just felt right to me. I priced it based off of the feedback that I got from the people who are participating in the pilot. I feel good about it, but I also still feel like there's still so much more to do. Like, this is kind of just the coaching arm. I have to also think about speaking arms, and I need to think about, am I going to write another book? I'm like, and that process of writing a book and doing it again is already bringing up all of this anxiety because I know what I had to go through last time. And I feel like it's going to be harder to write a second book because I have to create new content or something,
Well, so, so I have a question. So do you have like a KPI, like a key performance indicator that at some point, and that's something that we talk about with our students and our clients a lot, which is, you launch this new program, it's moving along, it's demonstrating success, right?
Yeah.
And then do you have a tipping point where it says, okay, once we hit this marker, it's time to develop something new, or once we hit this marker, it's time to go to that next level?
Yeah. And it's interesting because I feel like I spent so much of my life driven by data that I have data that I'm tracking, but there's a lot more intuition that I use as part of my measurements now, because I run a business that prioritizes work-life balance. And so I know that I can financially make certain amounts of money, but I don't know if I'm willing to do that at the sacrifice of my own personal work-life balance, right? So I have to kind of listen to both. The first few years of my business, I made some insane investments and felt like I was totally in the hole and wasting money, which was terrible. A terrible feeling coming from knowing my money story.
Right.
And this year for me has been more of a, okay, I've identified what's essential, and I am bringing in money that covers all of those things. And but of course, so I'm only 3 years into the business, and I don't think I could officially say that I've been profitable in terms of how much money I put in, but I also know that that I'm on that turning point now where I'm not taking my own personal things that I worked really, really hard in my former career and had saved up because I didn't know what to spend it on. I'm not dipping in that anymore. I'm actually, I will be profitable by the end of this year, which is great. So
now, when you're talking about what the money that you've invested or spent, are you talking about in personal development or in actual business expenditures?
Well, and it's hard because I feel like being a coach, there's that piece of, having your own coach is part of your business expense. So, that's the beauty of my business, because I do, having my own coach and having the time to process some of the things that I'm going through in my business and my life is essential to the work that I'm doing as a coach. So, and those come with big investments. So some of that is, you know, coming from the money that I invested, or the money that I had saved up, and is part of that. But I was also testing, you know, what are Facebook ads like, and how do you run? You know, I did that virtual summit, which was a huge production. And one of my big priorities in the last few years, and continues to still be, is I've never made investments in myself, right? Like I never had a coach before 2015. I went to coach training school. Obviously, that was an investment education wise, but I also was terrified to make investments like that in myself, like to take a training course. Like I just couldn't do it unless I knew that I was going to go to use. But after having gone through two different, you know, my undergrad program in engineering didn't really utilize that to what it was intended to, went back to school for secondary education, didn't finish that degree because I was like, why should I waste the money if I'm not going to continue to be a teacher? So it's really just, you know, grabbing onto like anything, and trying to make sure that I was making the right decision before I invested any money. But then once I really understood what mindset did, or my mindset was around how I was kind of hoarding money, I was like, okay, I'm going to just make investments and I'm going to give myself permission to make mistakes.
Nice.
Facebook ads, like I spent a lot on that. I spent a lot on the summit. I spent a lot on, you know, a coach that didn't work out. And at one point I had two coaches, one to help me work through my issues with the other one. I made a lot of investments, and I had to be loving to myself and say, okay, like, I mean, I think I spent, I don't even want to say this out loud, but I'm going to. I spent like $100,000, over $100,000 over the last 3 years to figure out what works for me. And now I'm not spending a lot at all, which is great because now I know what are the essential things that I need. But it took me a lot of pain and a lot of wasting money in order to, you know, figure out what was actually going to.
So I have a question about that. When you say wasting money, you put that in air quotes as well, because I think that you realize that it's not really wasting money, is it?
No, it's not wasting money. Yeah. But it's like it's that part of that story that like I just cringe because it's so ingrained in me. You know, like I used to feel guilty. I don't know if I told you this story, or maybe I told it during the call that we had with my group, but like I got mad at my husband one time, and we were just dating at the time. So it's like even worse. I bought him a $15 ticket to a show, and he decided that he wanted to go golfing instead. And I was pissed because he wasted my $15. And he gave me this like attitude about how like $15 is nothing. And I was furious at him. Granted, I still married him. So that, you know, like you can see how much my money mindset has changed. But like that's how much spending money in waste was for me. And so for me to
just in that story alone, I mean, there's actually two forms of money anxiety that just popped up from both ends. It's the fact that, you know, there was a kind of like this holding on. It's like, oh my God, you wasted $15. And then there was another language. If he literally said this, I don't know if you paraphrased it or not, but it's to say $15 is nothing. You know, there's a whole thing about prosperity. If you poop on pennies, you're pooping on the big dollars too, right? So it was interesting just kind of hearing you say that story, because I was like, oh wow, there's so many layers to that. It's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I mean, he said something like I don't know if I can swear on this, but like he's like, I poop $15. So that was what he had said to me, and I was just furious because I was like, you know,
that's not the point.
Yeah, I was like, you know, I earned this money, so it was but
it's interesting because when you going deeper into the, you know, if you take the money piece out of the equation, you know, what did it mean for him to take what you made a decision to get for him? You know, and then he said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go golfing instead. You know? When we take money as a scapegoat away from that, what does that then show up? What shows up then? You know, it's a really fascinating thing. And that's why I love what it is about what I do, because people use money to cover up everything.
And it's such an easy And it's such a hard topic to talk about with people because everybody's got a different scenario and situation. And, I don't like to talk about it much at all, even though that was something that, was defining of my success. But when I didn't have the money that I felt like I should have, I just felt like a failure the entire time. So even looking at the last few years of my business, when I've been making these investments into my business and into myself, like not all of it has turned around and come back in the form of money in the way that I want it to. But I mean, just even looking at and celebrating the fact that I can get really upset about something and I could be kind of over it and at peace with it 2 days later, whereas before that might have taken 2 months.
Yeah. That's huge. I mean, that
that's
investment
money
itself,
well spent.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I think you're starting to realize, it sounds like you're starting to realize that, one of the key components of becoming successful as an entrepreneur is how willing you are to invest in your own personal growth, because your business will reflect, your state of mind, your state of being, and everything.
Yeah.
Super cool.
And I also think that it's important, especially just in my field and what I do, is I think I used to only want to show the successes. And I think that a lot of people look at me and feel like I'm a really successful person, and I don't see myself as much in that light as they do, which is my own issues of, just having high standards for myself and being my own worst critic.
Sure.
But I think also I felt a lot of shame about all of the things that I've accomplished, even though I worked really hard for them, because I think people have this idea that it's super easy for me to get what I want. And it's not. I mean, a lot of sleepless nights trying to figure out the answers to anything. I'm super analytical, and it's not been easy. So trying to share a little bit more of some of the ways that I talk about myself, some of the ways that, the stories that I make up, because if I can't own up to it or fess up to it, I'm never going to change because I'm hiding it. And that's part of my whole visibility challenge for this year, is to say, when there's something that triggers me, like the best way for me to trigger myself is just go look on social media at other people's stuff. And that's kind of why I posted a picture of me in a bikini, which I've never done, unless it was like on accident and not in that way. So
on accident, like,
not on accident, but like, no, I mean, like I was at the beach one time and I was talking, but I was like, let me just like cut off here. It just, I hide for some reason, but, I think what happened was I saw a friend of mine post something from the beach, or, she was on vacation, and I was like, oh my God, her body looks great. Like but I could never post something like that. And that was the trigger that I was like, oh crap, why can't I? Because I'm a mom, because I run a business, and like I'm supposed to look professional online. And I started coming up with all these stories. And when I started to surface those, I was like, holy crap, like if I can't get past this, then that's going to be something that's going to continue to hold me back. And so when it comes to money, when it comes to just the things that I think about myself, my mindset, I am basically spending this whole year outing myself for things. And it's not like I'm 100% like the most open book. I'm a pretty open book. And, I do still keep things private and want to, I don't share every single little detail about my life, but the things that I know that I'm hiding because I'm ashamed of it, those are things that I need to address. And I know that if I allow myself to be vulnerable and share those things, when it comes to money, the fact that, I mean, I'd still love to be making more, and I do intend to, but I also want to do it my own way, because if I put too much pressure on myself, then it's just not going to feel good. And I'm just perpetuating, going back to the ways that I was feeling when I was working, when I was employed.
I mean, it sounds like you're on the journey this year, which I'm really excited to see what happens after this year goes through and run its course, is challenging your triggers as a way to kind of take yourself to that next level, which then your business will then follow as well. I mean, I think this is a big piece that I love the fact that you're actually stepping into, because one of my biggest things about why certain gurus or leaders, they get themselves to a point and they just they just crash and burn, or they hit the ceiling and they just can't seem to get past that, is that level of vulnerability, the willingness to be vulnerable. And I love that you're doing now, challenging the things that trigger you. If it's legitimate, if it's not a legitimate trigger. In other words, it's triggering. It's like, why is this triggering me? Maybe I should do something about it. I'm going to challenge it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go confront this trigger.
Yeah.
Which is sounds like what you're going to be doing this whole year.
Yeah, and I was trying to think of like a scenario where I wouldn't put myself out to be visible to do something. But I think it's more of, I will hide when I feel like I'm going to be judged. And so I want to kind of get ahead of it and say, here's the, you might judge me by what I'm about to post or what I'm about to share publicly, but I also want you to, really think about like, how does this show up for you? And, these are the things that I tell myself, which you're probably not even thinking. I mean, I posted another video of like me singing, which I sing all the time, but I do it in private.
Right. In private, inside the closet.
Yeah. And, I'm like singing in the shower all the time, like in the car, and nobody can hear me. So that's fine. But when I posted a video of me singing a cappella, and that was like, I think I spent all day just like trying to like get a clip that I was willing to share. And I couldn't get to it. I'm like, okay, forget it. This is the last thing that I did. I'm going to just share that right now. And the feedback has been amazing. And it's like, why am I beating myself up so much over this? And, I guess trying to bring that back to just kind of the thought of money. I'm doing a show actually tomorrow with one of my clients, and we're talking about just being entrepreneurs, and, money will probably become a big topic of conversation in that. But I think a lot of people, just what you see on social media, or just how
Right.
people are selling businesses to help entrepreneurs, there's this idea of, oh, let's like make six figures in like 2 weeks or whatnot. And I mean, it's totally possible, but I also feel like, what are you going to have to sacrifice of your values and of your priorities that you're gonna have to do to make that happen? And can you be, and this is, mostly for me, it's like, I know that I'm capable of making a lot of money. I've already done that before, but I want to do it in a way that I can feel good about it. And so if that means my own way, and if that means that I'm going to take it the slow route, then that's totally fine. I mean, I do think that if, my financial situation changed with my husband and we had to do different things to make ends meet, I might be willing to just kind of sacrifice and, if I needed to get a job, because I do have kids that I have to worry about. Mm-hmm. If it came to that. But if I don't have to, I also know that there's other things that I can do to continue my wealth. I mean, because I was such a penny pincher, like we have a great net worth. Like we are super comfortable. Like if we retired, I don't know, my husband wants to retire at 50. I think I'll probably be working till I die, but because I want to, not because I feel like I have to. Exactly. And so it's that type of stuff where I feel like being okay with, maybe I'm not making six figures today, or six figures a month, or six figures a year, or whatever, but I'm comfortable, and I'm honoring my priorities, and that's really more of what's important.
Yeah. No, I love that, because I'll share a little secret with you, and this is why I love the topic of the show that you helped create, was when you find that groove of how to create money your own way, there is actually no limit to the amount of money you can actually bring in, because it is your own way that nobody else can touch. Yeah. Which is really kind of a cool thing. So I love this path that you're on, this commitment on having to make sure that, sure, you can learn how other people make money, but does that resonate with you? And if it doesn't, then you'll like take it with a grain of salt, learn what you need to learn from that process or that understanding. But then focus on having the intention of having it done the way that feels congruent with you, so that you can maintain your level of authenticity and integrity, and with self and others, and and the people that you're here to serve. So I love everything that you're saying here, and it's interesting because I have a feeling that should probably make a plan for you to come back on the show on a regular basis, because believe it or not, we're actually almost out of time.
I know. It just
Holy
went by so
cow.
fast.
I
No, I
know.
would absolutely love that. And I think too that um and this is the part that I feel like people are going to be like, I can't believe this, and this doesn't make any sense. And as an analytical person, I still also don't feel like it makes complete sense. But it was the moment that I let go, and I know that your business is called the Six Figure Academy and whatever. But as soon as I let go of this idea of like I want to make six figures one day, the money started coming in faster. Like it's just I don't get how that works, but like taking that pressure off, like I'm actually generating more leads, more clients. I don't know how this is happening. So maybe you know something that I don't, but I just feel like once I took that pressure, it's just so much more in flow. And why do we, it just makes me like frustrated at this, like all of these people who are like, here, do this, and this is going to bring you six figures. And I was like, no, like this doesn't feel right. And as soon as
because most people talk about six figures, all they're really thinking about is the money,
Yeah.
And
that's
right,
not,
and that's not it. The Six Figure Academy. I mean, you and I had this conversation. Six figures is a metaphor. I mean, it really should be. And when you release what you did, when you released that piece right there, you basically deepened your relationship, improved your relationship with money. Because if you think about it, if you ever been dating or dated a clingy person, after a while, you just don't want to be with that person anymore, right? And if you think of money being a separate entity, a separate person, and you're clinging on to that person, I gotta make you, I gotta bring you in, and stuff like that, then they don't want to be around you.
Yeah.
And what you did was you released that energy, so to speak. And I know from a tech engineer, IT standpoint, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, we can go deeper. I can explain it now, having done this so many years now. I can explain it on an unconscious level, from a psychological level, what actually happened and how that shifts your decision-making processes and your perception on things. But that's a whole separate show. We could do it because otherwise we'd be here for another hour. Yeah. But I want to make sure that people have an opportunity to learn how to get in touch, because I think your story and the fact that you are so authentic and so willing to be vulnerable, that's why people will gravitate towards you and what it is that you do and connect so well. I mean, I was in your group and everybody loves you. Everybody loves what it is that you're trying to do. And that's something to be said about being an effective coach and being an effective leader of helping people become more productive, people have a cheerful mind, all those different things that you're trying to, not trying, but all the things you are doing to help these people. So I want to make sure that, the audience, and whether or not they listen to this live or afterwards, have an opportunity to know how to connect with you, how to engage with you, and if maybe even join some of your programs and services. So why don't you let us know how people can get in contact with you?
Yeah, for sure. So my website is www.thecheerfulmind.com. Hopefully that's easy. I'm on every social media, everything, mostly on Facebook, but you can find and connect with me anywhere there. Feel free to friend request or follow, whatever you want to do. The program that I was talking about that I just launched this year is called the Accountability Success Circle. So it's a very different coaching program than what I feel, how it compares to other coaching programs that exist, because it circles more around accountability. And I really focus on connection between the members and myself. And, it's probably, one of the things that's most important to me is A, flexibility, and B, just being able to connect on a deep level and not just be this person that's overseeing the program. Like I'm very hands-on with this group. So if you want to check that program out, it's just thecheerfulmind.com/ASC. But you can find all of that through the website. And then my book, Finding Success and Balance, My Journey to the Cheerful Mind, is on Amazon. But you can also get a link of to that book from my website. It's all there.
Super cool. Awesome. Yeah. And I know, and I haven't been a speaker at your group. I mean, everything, it's a very cool group. Everybody there seemed very supported, and they bring in like amazing, awesome, over the top speakers, that
It's true.
That contribute to the group. Oh wait, was I one? No. Anyway, so but yeah, so definitely go to the website. There's so many different ways to connect, but go to the cheerfulmind.com, and if you wanted more information about that particular group, it's at the cheerfulmind.com/ACS.
ASC.
ASC. Okay,
Yeah.
I reversed that. I went dyslexic on Yampo.
Yeah, no, you're
good.
Mm-hmm.
So very cool. So thank you so much, really, for coming on the show finally and sharing your story. And again, bringing that level of vulnerability that is oh so needed. I mean, I think there is such a need for more coaches and leaders in all stages of their business development. I mean, I'm pretty sure that someone who is just thinking about making that leap, or someone who just may not even have the belief that they can actually start something and create something, and because they use their kids as an excuse or their family as an excuse, you've actually shown so many different possibilities of what can be done. And so I really appreciate you coming on the show and doing this and sharing your story. And I'm really looking forward to having you back on the show. So
yay. Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's always so great to connect with you. We always have such great conversations. And next time I come to LA, I'll have to go get sushi again. I know. I just had some last night. I was like, oh, it's amazing. But yeah, I mean, I love the work that you're doing, and I'm so glad that our paths have crossed, and they will again. I'll have you on my Cheerful Conversations show too.
Yeah, there's so much more to share, because I think since the last time we spoke, I launched this whole other company, stuff like, so we can talk about that. So
for sure.
Awesome. So that's our show for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Again, if you found this episode to be valuable and know of someone else that could benefit from this, what we talked about today, or what April talked about, definitely share it. That's really kind of the thing. The world that we live in right now is all about sharing successful components and content that we find inspiring to us. So it's not just good enough that we get inspired, because chances are, if it inspires us, it probably inspires other people. And if you are a fan of our show, okay, year anniversary, yay! Another way to pay it forward is to rate, do all those things, and how we get the message out there to help people create that metaphorical six-figure lifestyle. Okay, so that's a wrap. Take this week to apply the knowledge that you learned from April today. Connect with her. Go to her website. Have an amazing week. And what we'll do is we'll catch you next week on the Money Lab Live podcast on episode number 53, where we will have Magic Man Chi Ni talking about leadership and money. So this is Wei from the Six Figure Academy, and April signing off.
Bye.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video. Say bye to everybody on YouTube. Bye, YouTube land.
Bye.
Okay, we'll see y'all next week.